In this lesson, you'll learn about panels and workspaces. So I'm not going to overcomplicate this. Basically, this is pretty similar to InDesign and Photoshop. If you're familiar with either of those, you'll be familiar with how panels work. But just in case you're not, these are just the basics. And of course, the customization of these panels and the workspaces are a little bit different than the other programs. So if your workspace looks like this, if you just go to File New or you open one of the support files, some things I drew a while ago like this chad.ai or streetlights.ai, you'll see over on the right there are a few panels that are collapsed, and over on the left we have a tools panel, and at the top we have a control panel. If it doesn't look like this is when we want to just set it to a workspace. So workspaces can be customized depending on what you're doing in Illustrator. So in the upper right hand corner where it says Essentials, or close to the corner, just click that and just select Essentials. If it doesn't reset it, just go to Reset Essentials and it will reset it to the default. That should look something like this. If you were working, say, in layout or more in painting, you could select that. So if I select painting, it then has a customized workspace where there are certain collapsed panels here and then certain expanded panels here. Same thing if we go to tracing, or if we go to topography or web, and so on. So I'm going to go back to Essentials, and then you'll see nothing is expanded by default. If you don't ever see the Tools panel or the Control panel up here, you can go to Window and then Control, make sure it's checked, or you go to Tools and then Default. You can also create customized Tools panels in Illustrator. And this is also sort of the master list of all the possible panels to open. So only certain ones are represented over here on the right. On the Tools panel, you'll see it's docked by default to the left. You can click and drag that off the edge if you want. If you want to dock it back over there, just click and drag it over until you see sort of a blue line there, and then let go, then it'll dock it. You can also click in the upper left-hand corner, that double-sided arrow, and that will collapse it to one column, and that gives you a little bit more space to work with. Or you can click it again, and you can have two columns. Up on the Control panel, you have a couple options that we're going to go over in later lessons, basically fill, stroke, different stylizings of the stroke or border, and opacity, and you also have a shortcuts to document setup and preferences. And now over on the right, by default, all of these, at least in the Essentials workspace, they're all collapsed. So you can click and drag the edge of it over, and then it makes it a little bit larger where you can see the names. You can customize these groupings, like if you wanted swatches up in the color, you could click and drag it up like so. You can also click this upper right-hand corner expand panels, a double-sided arrow, and that will expand all the panels, and whatever grouping of panels there were, now they're grouped in tabs. You have to click on the tab to see each one. You can click that again and it will collapse it down to the groups, just their names. You can also click and drag groups of these off the edge, and so they're floating out here. You can expand them out. And you could also click, let's say, click and drag the color down here, and then you can put that back up in there. So you can group these. So let's just say we wanted symbols out here, maybe symbols grouped with this one out in the floating panel. And you can collapse and expand them here with that arrow. And let's just say you had a custom setup. Let's just say you had libraries out here, and you had some color guide and swatches over here. And let's just say gradient over here, and you liked your setup, you didn't want to have to keep doing that every time you open an Illustrator file. What you can do is up on Essentials, you can go to New Workspace and then name it. Then from then on, it will be available up here as an option for a workspace. You can also right-click or control-click on the Mac, and there's a couple options like minimizing, closing the tab group, collapsing to icons, and so on. So that's the basics of panels and workspaces in Illustrator. We'll be going more in detail with a lot of these tools, using the fill and the stroke options, selecting colors, and using a lot of these effects in the various panels throughout this course.